KCJJ. It is now time for Rex Brandstatter's Senior Talk, brought to you by the Solon American Legion, Senior Benefits, and Walden Place Senior Living. How are you doing, Rex?
So far, so good, Molly. A nice day out there today. Here we go, folks. Time for Senior Talk. A wonderful, wonderful day out there. It's February. We've almost got February shot in the old fanny. We're cruising right through. And guess what? Spring is around the corner. We got spring training going on. We got all kinds of things happening. Snow is melting. But as we Iowans know, the snow could come back anytime it wants, so we're not out of the woods. Amen to that. Well, listen, thanks for taking time out of your busy day to sit back and listen to Senior Talk, weekly radio program where we try to, I try to attempt to, anyhow, bring some good, valuable, and maybe not so valuable information to you that could help you, could help maybe your family, could help maybe your friends down at the coffee shop or some of you ladies and your friends. Just kind of get your mind going on some things that you could consider in your daily travels. They might be maybe some financial things. It might be some retirement things. It might be some insurance things. All kinds of different things, household things that we can conjure up here. It might pertain to you. It might not. But that's the beauty of Senior Talk. We'll do what we can. And I just wanted to say thank you for listening, taking time of your senior day to listen to Senior Talk here today. This is for seniors and seniors gonna-bees, wannabes. So that includes lots and lots of people for sure. Thanks for listening, as many of you told me that you do. And I'll bring my best every week that might cover some important things that I think it would be important to you folks. So my name's Rex Brandstatter. I'm 75-year-old man, and I'm a real estate broker, and I like to meet and walk and talk and work with seniors. I help lots and lots of seniors buy homes and sell homes, and I deal with a lot of executors of estates, administrators of estates. Attorneys call me, trust departments of banks call me, and if you're in the need of someone to talk to about real estate, maybe I could be the guy, maybe I could fit the bill. We don't know until we would talk a little bit, and I'm at senior line for you at 319-330-5534, 330-5534. Give me a call. We'll sit down at your home, at my office, at a coffee shop, wherever it works for you, and talk about things. Now, there's no hurry, no rush to it, most likely. So it's just a good time to sit down and talk about maybe your future needs, maybe things you like to do, make a change, do this or do that. That's what I talk about people with every day. So grab yourself a sandwich and a nice cold root beer, and let's see what we can cook up here on Senior Talk. And, of course, the first thing is just to let you know that it's so nice out. Yesterday was absolutely beautiful. A little chillier today, but, folks, it's 48 degrees, I think, on my car. But remember now, that's above. We have to remind ourselves that's above. That was really, really cold for a couple weeks in that wind chill. We went 7 hours straight, which is about 4.5 days, of wind chill below zero. So when you went outside in your face, it was below zero for 104 hours, 4.5 days. And when we finally came out of that funk, it's because it made it up to only -1 degree. So we hadn't come far, but now that's behind us. I think we bottomed out. We'll say that. I'm not a weatherman, but I think we've bottomed out. So spring is around the corner, and a really good idea that spring is around the corner now. I think the last day of February is this Friday, so March is Saturday, which that makes me think the spring's around the corner. And it's also, guess what? A week from this Sunday, we go on daylight time, March the 9th. A week from this Sunday, we go on daylight time, which is absolutely wonderful in my world. I like that. So away we go. I don't care if we lose an hour in the morning. You got to get up earlier. It is what it is. I think that's the way to go, and I'm looking forward to it already. So that's the deal. Daylight time is on the way around the corner. So at the present time, if you're a sports fanatic, we've got baseball going on. We've got basketball. We've got hockey. We've got wrestling and arena football coming. What? Arena football. That's right. Coralville is going to have a professional arena football team this year called the Coralville Chaos. And I think there's going to be 4 games or 5 games that they play, several games down at the Scream Arena in Coralville. They'll be playing on the hockey rink. Of course, they'll cover that up or take the ice out or whatever they do. I think they're going to cover it up, whatever. Anyhow, that's where it's going to be. And I bought season tickets just because I've never been to a game. I've seen them on TV. but I've never been to one. Kurt Warner, that's how he got his big start, playing in Des Moines for the Barnstormers. Then he made it to the NFL. Now he's in the Hall of Fame. So it's good, fast, clean fun, and away we go. We're going to have arena football down at the arena in the Coralville Chaos coming to town in, I think they play their first game is in late April, maybe late March, and I know on in April. We'll just see what happens. It's going to be a lot of fun. And speaking of hockey, the Heartlanders hockey team is hot stuff, and they're doing really well this year, and they're on a, get this, folks, a 10-game road trip. 10 games, load them up. That's like MLB. They leave, and you leave the New York City and travel all around and come back 10 games later. Wow, that's a big deal. So they're going to come back in a few days, and we all need to get down there and support those young guys. They're really, really playing good hockey, and I think they're going to make the playoffs, which would be absolutely huge. Bring a lot of people to this town, a lot of influx in commerce. So it's really a great time to be there. Speaking of that, tonight there's a great big wrestling deal going on at the arena. And our own Spencer Lee, who won the silver medal in the Olympics, is wrestling tonight against the world champion at his weight class from Japan. And I think the man's name's Ono or something like that. And there's going to have some local high school kids, men and women, boys and girls, wrestling down there too. So going to be a big night of wrestling. I hope to have a good time while I'm there. So, all right. Well, here we've got some senior things for us to consider. A senior friend is working on her retirement plan. And she said the working on it is not good enough. She said, I will retire June the 30th, this coming June 30th. I will have my 401k, my savings of about $225,000, and my Social Security. Well, doing pretty good. She said, I live alone and I like it. So there you go. She lives alone and she likes it, and she's a senior. She said, no house payment, and I'm 70. But you said, Rex, one time to plan for 95. What do you think? Well, if you go to, folks, here's the deal. If you go to a financial planner, you go to your CPA or anybody that does a little planning for you, a financial advisor, they are running people's your income out to 90 to 95 years old. And, well, nobody in my family's ever made it to 95, 85, let alone 95. Well, you really have to plan on your retirement there. This lady's going to have Social Security or 401k and $225,000 in the bank. What if she does live to 92? Is her income going to make it? And that's the worry that a lot of us have. We're comfortable, but how long is it going to last? You know, they're not going to do away with Social Security. I don't see that happening. They're going to adjust some things. They have to, because they're getting there. Now they're making some cuts in this and that. And maybe they're finding all kinds of, supposedly, people who are on the list but getting a check but not even alive. So maybe they can straighten some things out and they don't have to change things. But things will happen. So probably not in the next 10 years, but down the road quickly for sure. So all things are going to happen. So this lady, I advise her to, I told her this is a great opportunity for you to sit down with the financial planner and get started. And I said, yes, even at age 70. Absolutely. There are a lot of other things to consider while you're doing that, because along the way, maybe you could do an estate plan and look at your insurance beneficiaries and see if they're up to date. Get yourself a power of attorney and appoint an executor to your estate. And all those things can start with the financial planner. And the financial planner can only do some of those things. The financial planner could then recommend that you go see an attorney to get the will and the power of attorney and things like that. So see, it's just a good plan. Now, this lady, I didn't ask her all those questions, but more than likely she's like about 80%, 90% of the rest of us, the rest of Americans who have never been to a financial advisor, a financial planner, have very little up their sleeve about an estate plan. In fact, I had a young guy not too long ago come to my office. We were talking about real estate, and he said, you talked about a will and things like that. He said, I'm only 32. I said, well, good, I'm glad. Is there any chance you could walk out the door and lightning hit you, or you get run over by a cement truck this afternoon? Oh, yeah, I suppose there is. I said, now do you know why you need a will? He goes, yeah, I really didn't think about that. So that's the deal. You don't have to live it to be 114 to need a will. Something could happen tomorrow, unfortunately, to us. So that's the story. So she's all excited. She's going to have, it sounds like she's got a reasonable plan. It's a self-guided plan, and we call it, they call it. I'm not an advisor. It's a self-guided plan, and I think now, she could have done this years ago. She could have, But now we don't worry about the past. She needs to go sit down with an advisor to make sure that her income does last her comfortably for her on down the slide here. All right. A senior man says, I'm going strong, so to speak, at age 82. Well, good for him. I retired at age 70, and I seem to have everything I need to keep going. Great. He said, I have a power of attorney, and I have beneficiaries. I said, do you have a will? He says, yes. And I said, okay, well, that's almost the same as the lady up above with the first call from that lady. This guy has all those things, and that lady doesn't. So kind of the same thing. And this guy says he's 82 and still going strong. Good for him. Absolutely. If he's got all those things lined up with the will and the power of attorney and all that kind of thing, executor, just go about his. He didn't say he's retired, or he says he's going strong. So if he's retired or working, why, more power to him. That's a great report. Good for him. And my husband and I want to know more about a reverse mortgage. What exactly is it? Is it for us, and how does it work? Well, let's define the term mortgage. Mortgage is where you go to the bank and you say, we want to borrow, I'm going to pick a number out here, folks, $100,000 to buy that house. We have $10,000 down. It's going to cost us $110,000. We have $10,000, and we want the bank, if you give us $100,000. And if you give us $100,000, we will gladly pay it back by the month for the next 20, 25 to 30 years. That's called a mortgage. All right. Well, this is a reverse mortgage. Well, what in the heck is a reverse mortgage? Well, that's where you get a check back from the bank. What? You get a check back from the bank. The house pays you. In other words, all these years you put money into the house through the slot on top, put money into the slot on top, and your house is your piggy bank. It is, matter of fact. And the way you go. And the older you are on this deal, the more you're going to get. In other words, the closer you are to doomsday, the more money you're going to get. It's all based on actuarial scales. In other words, they all look down and say, Rex, you're 75, and the average age for a male like you is 82. So you're within 7 years of demise, which could happen tomorrow, could happen when I'm 96, but that's the average. And so what they do is they look at your house. Now you have to be for the most part, you have to be debt free on your house. You own your house wide open, okay? You own your house free and clear. So you go to the bank, and the banks that do this now, they are insured by the FHA. So that's the key here. They are insured. So you sit down with them and say, here's our house. It's now worth $150,000. It's all paid off. We need some income. Now, the reverse mortgage is basically a pretty quiet, underused resource for financial abilities and income. Not many people would, like this lady, my husband, this lady says, what is it? Is it for us? So she doesn't know what it is, but she's heard about it. So instead of you paying the bank, you've paid the bank all those years. Now your house is going to pay you. And you're going to get in cahoots with the kind of the government. You'll get with a lender here, and they're going to be backed by the FHA. In other words, they can't lose if you don't make the payments. And there are some rules. You have to live there. One of you has to be at least 62, and don't take it when you're 62. You won't get much. One of you, if there's two of you, husband and wife, we'll say, or husband, other, wife, other, whatever, you won't get much of 62, but when you're 75 or 78 or 80, you're going to get a nice chunk of change. And so every month, that bank that you go sit down and make a deal with, they will send you a check. Now, you have to live there. You have to keep the taxes paid. You have to keep the property up, and I mean that just what it says. You got to keep it looking good, in order, as we would all suspect it needs to be, and you'll keep getting a check. So you go there and you borrow. Now it's 150. They're going to loan you. They have a quotient there. They're going to loan you 100. They're going to give you back what you end up paying for it, so to speak. Only you paid more than that because you paid interest. But anyhow, they're going to pay you at a low interest rate, so they don't pay as much as you would have paid it. They'll pay you until what? They'll pay you until A, you move out. We're moving to Florida. You'll have to pay it back. You sell it and pay them back. Or B, you bite the dust. Then you have to pay it back. But if you borrowed $100,000 and you live there so long you outlive the program here, and their program says that it's a 20-year loan, and you live there for the next 28 years, they lose. The bank loses, and the government picks up the difference. Does this sound complicated too? Well, it is, in a way, it is. But it's a rather interesting thing. If your house is paid for and you decide you want to get a reverse mortgage and you want to take the money out and you think you can get a hold of $250,000 or $350,000 according to their plan, you can take that money and go down to Florida and buy a townhouse. You could take that money and go to Arizona and buy a nice side-by-side a ranch home down there. Okay, you can do that. You can use that money. It's got a lot of neat features on it. I've taken several classes on it. I've never done one, but I'm only speaking for the program itself. If you want to do that, you can go online. Just go online, type in reverse mortgages or reverse mortgage in my area, and the biggest lender is I think out of Iowa Falls with Charles City and one in Waterloo. So that's the deal. I don't know of any banks around here. I'm not aware of any bank here that does a reverse mortgage. The upfront costs, yes, there are upfront costs. There's appraisals and things like that, and that bank will charge you for that. And so the big story is the upfront costs are pretty heavy. So just on something like that might cost you $10,000 or $15,000 to get started, or $8,000 to $10,000 to get started. Okay, so Google it. Go to Google and type in a reverse mortgage in my area, a reverse mortgage of facts and opinions and things like that, and just read about them. That's the best thing you could do to get started. All right. That is for sure. You can use the money that you would get to buy a car, a duplex, go on vacation, anything you want, because you're taking money out of the house that you paid for. You're taking money back out of that house. All right. Not many lenders, and they're protected by the FHA. The upfront costs could range $7,000 to $10,000 ish. Not many people understand them. Not many people use them. Not a lot of bankers or planners use them or like them, but it's a valuable tool. They're out there, valuable too, if you need more income in your retirement. Absolutely, you could go buy a camper with it. They don't care, as long as you know that you're taking it out against your property. So it could happen if that's what you're planning to do, and a lot of people don't know about them. That's why this lady called and need to know more. All right. Here's an interesting question that I get. Remember, I'm a real estate broker, but I do encourage people to call me because I'm trying to help you find some answers. This guy says, Rex, should we buy a car or lease a car? Well, I've done both, ladies and gentlemen, so I kind of have a little experience. Business use is good for a lease, they generally say. Business use is good for a lease. Personal use is at your discretion as long as you know the rules. You get so many miles, so many months. There are upfront costs and monthly payments involved with it, all right? So what the car lot says is we've got this brand new car, and here comes Rex. He's going to buy it. So Rex goes down, writes a check, or Rex goes down and says, my bank's going to loan me the money. Here's a check from my bank, okay? They say the car, you drive away, and the car costs $30,000, okay? So you go down there and say, well, look, I don't have the ability to get a loan. I do, but I don't want the money going against me. I don't want on my credit report. I just got a divorce. I just went through a bankruptcy. I can't buy one. I seriously, financially can't buy one, but I got a really good job and I can make payments. So here's what they say. It's the same car that I bought. Now, it's a $25,000 car. And I bought it, and I drove away. They'll say to you, well, tell you what, we're going to let you lease that for 36 months. And so look on their chart, in 36 months, now that $25,000 car in 36 months, 3 years will be worth $15,000. I'm just picking numbers here. So it's going to go down in value $10,000. So what they want you to do is pay them $10,000 up front-ish, so that they absorb the loss. They get the money up front for what it's going to, because they're going to take that car back, and they're going to want it to come back in there with the low mileage. Remember, you only get so many miles. In good shape, they get the car back. They can sell it and basically sell it for the $15,000. They've already got $10,000 from 15 to 20. They can't lose. They like that. It's a slow boat for them because they have to take their cut by the month. But that's the deal. So here's another thing for you. You cannot deduct the payments. You cannot go over the mileage. It really gets expensive. Well, they said I could have 28,000 miles. We turned in with 34,000. You're going to pay a huge bunch of money, folks. It's they don't like that at all. That really gets them. Okay. On the other hand, you like that you've got the money to do these things, and you think, why not? I can spend it on myself, get myself a car. You can get a brand new car to you every 3 years or so. There's all kinds of different lease programs. All right, and the lease programs are going to get hot and heavy here because interest rate, car values are up, car prices are up, used car prices are up. People can't afford them, so they're going to start driving older cars, keeping cars longer. So they're going to try to entice you and me into come down and buy a new car or lease a new car. Just be careful if you're going to lease one. I don't care what you do. A lot of companies, they lease them and then turn them in with that mileage on them, and away they go. That more power to them. But you only get so many miles. So if you take a big road trip, we have a lease car, but we want to go to California and visit the grandkids. We don't want to drive our car. Then I suggest you go rent a car. Call a rental car here in town or at Cedar Rapids Airport and rent the car for a week or 2 weeks where you go. Put that mile on somebody else's car. Don't put it on your own car. That's my take on it. So that's the good, the bad, and the ugly. I leased a Jeep Grand Cherokee for 36 months, and I think I was allowed 32,000 miles, and I turned it in with 31,852 or something like that, and got my deposit back, and then I bought one from them the next day. Turned it in and bought a new one. I bought a new one from the next day. And then I drove that one for 4 or 5 years. I didn't need to trade it in because, I didn't want one that quick. So leasing can be good, doesn't have to be good. All right. I met with a senior friend recently, and in his parents' house is a true Johnson County history piece. That's true. There's a good chance, I'm not sure, that the piece will end up at the Johnson County Historical Museum. Now, most people don't have a clue of its past history, but others will be fascinated with the display at the museum where it could end up. All right. If you have an item or a collection donation, or if you have an item or a collection that has Johnson County provenance, you could entertain the idea of donating or loaning it to the Johnson County Historical Museum out in Corva. And that museum is in the lower level. It's right next to the Antique Auto Museum. Folks, you need to go see these two museums. They are outstanding. $10 gets you in, and you get to see both museums. And if you go to the door there, they've got a group plan and a family plan, the whole shot. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's really a place to go. So this gentleman is cleaning out his parents' home, and there is quite interesting. I don't know the street value of it. I don't know that. They're not in huge demand, but its provenance is pretty interesting to the history of a certain railroad depot in Johnson County. So that's what he and I have been talking about, and I'm on the board of the Historical Society, and he's got that piece, and he doesn't know what to do with it. He doesn't want to sell it because he knows the interesting background of it. So we'll see what happens, and it might just end up down there. And I did talk to the museum down there, and their eyes kind of lit up because they have 2 or 3 different displays going that they would like to do that. They would put together the history of it and some photos in the building where this was. Is pretty interesting. We'll see what happens. I will keep you posted. That's is really, really interesting to me. All right. As I talk to you each week about different things, some of the things that are more important than others, the more important ones that I think you really, really need to consider, folks, because I deal with a lot of people, and I hear a lot of stories, and I hear a lot of people crying in their root beer, wringing their hands because someone passed away in the family, and they didn't have any post-mortem plan. They didn't have a will. Didn't have anything set up for themselves. It's really, really not a good deal, and it never was a good deal in the day and age. You can go online and see if you can fill out your own. Every state has different rules. In Iowa, it has to be witnessed and signed by 2 witnesses and notarized. I mean, you can write it on the back of a notebook paper if you want, but just play by the rules. I advise you go to an attorney and do it right. And I don't say do it right because a lot of attorneys will even tell you can write your own will. They don't want you to, but you can't goof it up. Otherwise, you don't get the results you want. But that's the most important one for sure. And then the one for health, if you appoint someone to take care of you in case you can't, maybe you have a stroke and you can't deal with your affairs, your matters. Someone has to make the decisions, and they can be very important decisions, and they can't come to you because you're laying over at the hospital and you don't know north from south type of thing. You've already filled this stuff out that say, hey, if I'm in that position, I want my wife, I want my husband, I want my brother Fred, I want my sister Jane to handle my affairs. And that's what needs to happen. And you see these things all the time You hear about a car accident, this or that, and lo and behold, they didn't have a will. You kind of wonder about half the people in California out there, that some of these people that got killed in that fire, did they have a will? Did they have insurance? It just makes you wonder. And I only look out for myself, but I'm actually here trying to look out for you too, because I really want you to get what I call a senior legal posture. A senior legal posture, and you don't have to be a senior to get a legal posture. Had a young guy, I tell you earlier, I don't really have anything. I said, do you have a car? Yeah. You have a savings account? Well, yeah, I have a checking account. Yeah. Do you have a house? Yeah. I said, you have an estate. You have something worth making an estate plan for. So it doesn't have to be own 250 acres and farm it and big farmhouse and 25 cars and all this kind of stuff. It's just below you and your house and your bank account. It's got to go somewhere. If you don't, the whole state of Iowa probably going to march in there, and they're going to take the share that you could have directed to your family. They're going to take that share and more. Look out. All right, that's my thing. Well, I have always wanted to know more about the history of the ownership in houses in the north end of Iowa City. That just fascinates me. Drive up and down where the brick streets are, Davenport Street, Fairchild Street, Bloomington Street, Brown Street, Church Street. There are some interesting homes, and I have ascertained and found out where a lot of people, I'm going to call them Iowa City famous people, so to speak. Some might have been football coaches or mayors, and things like that. But that fascinates me. But I don't know. I know a lot about Coralville, but I don't know a lot about the north end of Iowa City for sure. And so I decided the other night, I said, how am I going to find this out? I can't pay anybody. Well, I just thought about this. I have two good friends, my classmates in high school. They grew up in the north end, so they don't know this yet. And if they're listening, they're listening. They don't know it yet. I haven't even told them. I'm not going to tell them who they are, but they can figure it out, I'm sure. They grew up in the north end, and one of them still lives there, and one of them lives out behind City High. I'm going to, when it warms up a little bit, I want them to give me an auto tour. I'll drive, and they can sit there and say, here's who used to live there, here's who lived there, that one over there, that house is painted blue because the lady who lived there loved blue, that type of thing. That's what I want to know. And I want to go up to the north end of Iowa City and learn all that stuff. And I don't mean every house, that's for sure not there. And I'm thinking I might be able to point some things out to them that I've come up with. So it's the north end of Iowa City that I'm working on pretty soon. And I'm going to go to the resource. Why not go to the people who live there and know the things? Why not go to the people who grew up in the neighborhood and down the street? The people down the street seem to know all kinds of things about you. It's just the way it is in life. And so I'm really looking to have a good time, and I'll keep you posted because I know I'm going to learn things. And then the next one I want to do, I've got a friend over in Manville Heights. He grew up in Manville Heights. I want to know more about Manville Heights. And Manville Heights is extremely intriguing because Manville Heights are River Street, Lexington Drive, Lexington Dips over in that area over there, Hutchinson, all those streets. I want to know more about those. Just the appetite I have, and I'm going to learn more about it. And I'll bring some of those interesting things. Now, Irving Weber wrote about a lot of those things. That is for sure. And I read a lot of his books and things like that. But I want a hands-on, drive down the street type of thing. Well, one of the houses I came up with was I always wanted to know, Niall Kinnick was here, and I have found out 3 different places where Niall lived while he was going to the university here, and that back in the 1930s. And I recently came across, I did a lot of research on this, the discovery, I call it. It's where his football coach, Dr. Eddie Anderson, lived. Well, where did Eddie Anderson, the football coach, live? That just intrigues me. Now, they don't live there anymore, so I'm not trying to get you to go spy on anybody. I don't mean that, and I just go to the street. I don't knock on any doors. So I found the house where Dr. Eddie Anderson used to live. He was the coach of the Ironmen. It just fascinates me, things like that. So I'm working on that as a kind of an overgrown area. It's a nice older home there. Grew up on the north end of town, and I don't know if my classmates know that or not. I'm gambling. I'm betting that they don't know that. So I'll bring something to the table with that. So I got to share some of that. And over in University Heights, if you've been around Iowa City long enough, a lot of the photos, it always says photo by Kent, K-E-N-T, Kent Park. It was named after Fred Kent, the photographer. And Fred Kent was a photographer who actually worked for the University of Iowa. and he took zillions, and I mean that with a capital Z, zillions of pictures of Iowa, University of Iowa campus, University of Iowa events, University of Iowa sports, University of Iowa buildings, all those things, and all around town Iowa City. They named Kent Park after him. And I called him. When I was in college, I did a big research paper on Kent Park, because it was a brand new park, on why did they name it Kent Park. And I called him one night. He was still around. It was been right maybe about 1970 or something I did that. And he was still around. I don't remember he passed away, but he was still going. But he took pictures in 1905 and 1910 and 1920s and zillions of pictures. And I talked to him, a nice gentleman, and I said, well, why do you think they named the park after you? He goes, Rex, I don't have a clue. Who would name a park after just an old photographer? Well, now if you look at any pictures of Iowa City down the lower right-hand corner, you'll see photo by Kent. That is the guy. Absolutely, for sure. Well, another thing I've been infatuated with was when the Iowa City manufacturing company came out to Corba because they wanted to put in an overhead dam, and they wanted to get a grist mill going. They came out to Corva, and that's where the dam is down there on 5th Street and 1st Avenue, where the Iowa River Power restaurant was. That dam, they built that dam, and I was right in the same spot. It opened in 1842, and it started building on in 1838, 1839. Opened in 1841, 1842, and let's see who was in on that. Ralston, John Ralston, who Ralston Creek's named after. Some other guy, the Chauncey Swan was the big ringleader on that. The governor of Iowa, Governor Lucas, who lived over on Lucas Farms, lived over in Plum Grove. He was in on that, appointing those guys to go get started on the Capitol. And pretty soon now the local businesses need this grist mill. So they built that. It's about 400 feet long, and they got going out there with a paper mill and a woolen mill and a grist mill right on the location where it is now. And they hired a guy from Ohio named Ezekiel Clark. And Ezekiel Clark came to town, and Ezekiel Clark lived on the hill. I'm going to put this in today's text. He lived on the gate at the old site of the Don Gatens house. Mike Gatens and Steve Gatens and Mary Sue and Mr. Gatens' wife, Mary Lou, all lived up on top of the hill. So the old Gatens place, which is now a hotel, up above Burger King on 1st Avenue. That's where Mr. Ezekiel Clark lived with his wife and daughter in the early 1840s, and they lived there until the mid-1850s. The house later burned down, and when things started on fire back then, they just flat burned down, folks. It went right to the ground. There were no fire departments, nothing. You just stomped water on it, or did what you could, but it was gone. So Ezekiel Clark came out here to run the dam, operate the grist mill, and things like that. And he quite frankly, he got bored with it. So he enticed his brother-in-law to come out here, and his brother-in-law took over in the late 1840s and early 1850s, and his brother-in-law ran it very, very successfully. And his brother-in-law came out here, and and it became very important in 1854 and 1855 that his brother-in-law really step up and really do a big job and really take over, because Ezekiel Clark, who was basically, we're going to call it the founder of what later became Coralville, so to speak. We had all that land, 1,800 acres up 1st Avenue and up along, and it's all Ezekiel Clark land. The Mormons got to Iowa City in 1856. They got off the train. They were all the farthest west the train went in the United States in 1856. 1855 was Iowa City. And so the Mormons, seeking to expand, they put out a worldwide effort to bring people here and get them to Iowa City so they could leave from here at the end of the line. There would be hand carts for them. There would be elders here from the Mormon Church and hand carts, and they would walk and walk their way to, I assume it's called Zion, which is Salt Lake City. And so here they came. Well, the problem was for Ezekiel Clark was his wife became enamored with him, Mary, and she ran away. Took their 2-month-old little daughter, and she ran away, so to speak, like ran away with the circus, but she ran away with the Mormons. So here's Ezekiel Clark, kind of the soft-spoken big shot in Coralville, running the dam, and he was quite well known by the political leaders in the state of Iowa. He later became the Secretary of Finance in the United States. He was a big shot, folks, and he lived right here in Iowa City. Well, he was decimated by the fact that his wife ran away, and he did get remarried later on, but he brought his brother-in-law here, and his brother-in-law his name was Samuel J. Kirkwood. Samuel Kirkwood was the brother-in-law of Ezekiel Clark. So here comes Sam Kirkwood. Now let's think that name through. Sam Kirkwood, Kirkwood Avenue in Iowa City. Kirkwood's Elementary School out in Coralville. Kirkwood Community College, Kirkwood Area Education Association. That's Sam Kirkwood. He came out here and he operated the grist mill. And he was a very well-spoken, not outspoken, but a well-spoken man. And he ran the grist mill, and they elected him. Now, where was the capital of Iowa in 1855? Do your little homework here. Well, it was we call it the old capital. It was right here in Iowa City. And he worked in Coralville. He ran the dam out in Coralville. So he rode his horse he was elected to the Iowa Senate. And he was elected to the Iowa Senate. And he rode his horse. He walked and or rode his horse to meetings down in the Iowa Capitol building. Outstanding history here, folks. Lived over on Kirkwood Avenue. Kirkwood and Summit on the south side of the street, just east of Ardenia. A couple doors. That's where the Sam Kirkwood house is. It's not on the north side of Kirkwood Avenue where that big house is. He lived on the south side. It's an older home. People live there today. Old house. And the governor of Iowa at that time lived in Plum Grove, so they all knew each other. So Samuel Kirkwood then got elected to what? He got elected to be the governor of Iowa. And he was the governor of Iowa during the Civil War. And during the Civil War, Iowa sent more soldiers per capita than any state in the Union. And along with that, had so many soldiers to go to the Civil War, and they fought. The Iowa, the 22nd out of Iowa, companies B and C and Company D, and all other ones. I think the 10th out of Iowa, a lot of 22nd was out of Iowa for sure. Excuse me. They went to Vicksburg, and they went to Sherman's March to the Sea, and all kinds of things. Well, they needed to be paid. They're soldiers. They needed to be paid. And the state of Iowa ran out of money, so they didn't know what to do. The governor of Iowa stepped forward, Samuel Kirkwood from Coralville, Iowa. Lived in Iowa City at the time, but he ran the dam in Coralville, owned and operated it. He came up with the money from the profits from running the grist mill out there and paid the soldiers. So he's well known, well revered, and he's buried up in Oakland Cemetery, as is Ezekiel Clark. Now, both those guys with a huge Coralville background are buried in Oakland Cemetery. And so I recently found Ezekiel Clark's tombstone up there. It's kind of a spire-looking thing. Looks like, I think it's called an obelisk. I don't have the right term. It looks like a Washington Monument, only miniature size. It's about 8 feet tall. And I wouldn't say it's in great shape. It's not falling down, but you can hardly read things. So I'm going to organize a group of people who know what they're doing. I don't, on that respect. My wife would say I don't know a lot about anything, but my brother says the same thing. I'm going to work on those people. So I'm going to work on this summer, maybe get that thing cleaned up. And about we found then on, like birds sitting on, the usual stuff like that. So we'll do a little more history on Ezekiel Clark and things like that. But I find it fascinating, and you can go. You want to find somebody. I tested this out the other day. A friend of my dad from Coralville. He was in the service with my dad, and after he was a pilot. And after World War II, he got killed in a helicopter crash in 1949. 1949, he was working. He was the first airplane pilot in a helicopter for the United States Postal Service in California. And something went wrong with the helicopter, and he dropped right straight down, right in downtown L.A., and Harry bit the dust. I mean, Harry was gone. I went to findagrave.com, findagrave.com, and typed in a name, and I typed in the city where he might be born, and I didn't know when he died, but I knew it was after World War II. And up popped a handy-dandy little map, and I drove World War II right to it. So if you're infatuated and interesting things like that, I can tell you where some of these things are, and away you go. There are 2 Governor Kirkwood things up his grave, and there's a Governor Kirkwood monument up there as you go into Oakland Cemetery. If you drive in off Summit Street there, North Summit, and just pull in off the road, go between the 2 gates here and look to the right, you'll see all kinds of Civil War, little alabaster white, I think they're alabaster white stone grave. Well, there's a big marker over there for Governor Kirkwood. You should, if you're interested in stuff like this, Go there for a walk over there and take a look at those Civil War things. Interesting, if that's what you like to do. So, that's kind of it for Senior Talk today. How about this one? To get back to my youth, I would do anything in the world except exercise or get up early. The older we get, the fewer things seem to be worth waiting in line for. Isn't that the truth? And wisdom does not necessarily come with age. Sometimes it just shows up by itself. Well, let's hope we all have a little bit of wisdom. So tell you what, folks, it's been my pleasure to be here with you today, and my salute to each and every one of you who served our country and all those serving today and to protect our freedom, so I can sit here at this microphone and spew forth things on Senior Talk, and you can do daily what you like to do. So thank you so much for listening to Senior Talk. Do all you can while you can, because we don't know how far along this backstretch is going to be. So this is Rex Brandstatter saying thanks for listening to Senior Talk. We'll see you next time. So long.
Your life is always changing,